Hello my friends and welcome back to the rabbit hole. In today's video we are going to be chatting all about some labeling discrepancies between Korean beauty products sold in Korea and sold in the United States. Now indeed all of the questions that you see in the thumbnail will be answered in this video, but I want to start off by letting you know how I started even thinking about this, how I started questioning are there differences. So I am a huge fan of the Primera Miracle Seed Essence. This is not something that I'm just pulling out of the air. If you are a subscriber, you know this. So during the Sephora VIB sale, I did make a purchase on the Sephora website and I did get my Primera Miracle Seed Essence. However, at roughly the same time, the company Stylevana sent me some PR that included the Primera Miracle Seed Essence. When I looked at these two side by side, I realized, why are there so many differences in the exact same product, including the ingredients? Because in using these products, they smell the same, they feel the same, there is not any kind of a texture difference whatsoever. So why would they have two different ingredients lists? That just doesn't make any sense. I wanted to do a little more with this situation. I wanted to really look into this and figure out what was going on. How could I possibly have these two different ingredients lists? Could people perceive one of these as a fake product? All of that. So I did start doing quite a lot of digging into the different labeling laws between Korea and the United States. And where I want to start is by letting you know that I'm not the first person who has done this. In fact, one of the very first things that I found that really did help me in understanding what was going on was a blog post that I will make sure I have linked in the description box below. I was about to put a card up for a blog post, which does not work on YouTube. I highly encourage you to check that blog post out because that blogger was able to confirm something that I actually wasn't. I did reach out to Primera and ask if both of these formulas are the exact same, and unfortunately I didn't get a reply. However, that blogger did. I believe it's Amore Pacific who got back to her and confirmed that both formulas are the exact same even though the ingredients were different. So again, I'm over here forced to speculate because I didn't get a response, but I'm going to assume that these differences in labeling are what's going on with the product and why the product seems to be the exact same to me. So let's start off by looking at the packaging together. So we get the outside box, and the Korean version obviously contains a Korean side as well as an English side, whereas US Primera, the one sold at Sephora, contains a French side as well as an English side. As far as US regulations, you are required to very clearly list both the fluid ounce as well as the milliliter measurements, and so you see those in giant print on the front of the box in two different places. Where you don't see that on the Korean box, however, you do, if you flip it over, see that it is 150 milliliters listed in rather small print in comparison. What I found really interesting about the front of the packaging here is that in the Korean product, it just says lotus seed extract, whereas on the US box, it says brighten and hydrate, which I think really speaks volumes as far as, you know, how Americans shop for skincare. People are not necessarily looking for a specific extract. In the US, it seems like we are shopping more for concerns, whereas my impression of this is that Koreans may be shopping more for these specific ingredients. We also see on the US box, clean formula, love your skin, love the earth, which makes so much sense as far as trends in American shopping habits. A lot of people have turned toward this concept of clean beauty. Whether it is real or not is not an argument that I want to make in today's video. We have way too much else to talk about, but that is a selling point in the US, whereas that's not on the Korean box. Instead, we see 93.1% lotus seed extract. It is very, very, very interesting to me that we don't see 93% listed anywhere in any of the packaging for the US Primera version. It is not on the website, it is not on the Sephora website, and I had to really think about this. If these are the exact same product, which I truly believe they are, then why are we not told that it's 93% lotus seed extract? I ultimately am going to talk more about that later in this video, but I think it is. I just think that US regulations prevent Primera from stating that in the US. Another absolutely huge difference between these two products is that in the US version, we get a batch code. Now, a batch code is a way that the company identifies when that product was made, and that can be very helpful if a company wants to see if a product should still be sitting on this shelf. You know, is it too old? We'll check the batch code to see when it was manufactured, and I believe it's usually a 2-year shelf life after the date of manufacture, whereas with the Korean version, we very clearly get an expiration date. It is very interesting to me that expiration dates are not a requirement on cosmetic products in the US. I could certainly go off about how I don't like that, how that means that we as a consumer never know what we're buying at TJ Maxx unless you're wise enough to know the websites where you can check the batch codes, but you can't always. Sometimes you have no idea if the product in your hands was made last month or if it was made 10 years ago. Whereas every Korean product always lists the expiration date as well as, in some cases, the manufacturing date. And when we look at the bottles side by side, we see that yet again, US regulations require the volume to be clearly listed on the packaging in big lettering. And we also have a different description. This is almost fascinating to me. Again, the different marketing that we're seeing going on with these products. Not just the regulations, but the marketing. So the US version says brighten and hydrate, whereas the Korean version says lotus seed extract. Completely different descriptions. In the US, we have dewiness in a bottle. This concentrated essence packed with amino acid rich lotus seeds does a lot of heavy lifting to smooth texture, improve tone, increase hydration, and help fight environmental stressors at the same time. A lot of emphasis on what it does. Whereas the Korean description is miraculous seed essence containing all the energy generated upon germination, creating radiant, glowing skin. Key ingredients, lotus seed. But as you guys might be able to guess if you know me, we are going to spend some time talking about these two different ingredients lists because upon first glance, these don't even look like they're the same product. I did a translation of the box from Korea and it says the first ingredient is lotus germ extract, whereas the first ingredient in the US product is water. The second ingredient on the US box is propanediol, which is a vegan ingredient that is often used in place of propylene glycol. And then finally, we get to Nelumbo Nucifera germ extract, which is lotus extract. Now, here's the catch for me. I feel like if you looked at these two ingredients lists and you had a very basic understanding of how ingredients lists work in the United States, you would say, well, I'm absolutely not going to buy the US version because I don't want extra water. And what is this propanediol? I don't want that. I just want lotus germ extract. That's the ingredient that I'm looking for. But here's the catch. In the United States, you are not allowed to list an extract as an ingredient. Instead, you have to list out the ingredients within that extract. So now you must be asking, well, wait a minute, what does extract mean? I thought that just means we have the lotus seeds, but it doesn't. An extract is when you have an ingredient suspended within something else. So basically what I'm saying here is that the first ingredient is most likely the exact same thing as the first 3 ingredients in the US version. However, because the two countries have different laws, the United States will always require companies to list water first. You know, this really had me kind of worrying about how we perceive skincare INCI lists. I've seen a lot of content creators get really excited about products where something other than water is the first ingredient, and it's usually a Korean beauty product. In fact, I've done this myself. I am willing to admit it. However, as you've now seen, it is very possible that these different labeling laws might be making us think that products where the laws are different have superior ingredients, when at the end of the day, it's still water, primarily in the formula. Look at these products, look at them. Of course that's mostly water in these. This is not what lotus seeds look like. It's not 93% lotus seeds in either case. It is 93% lotus seed extract. Okay, so now we have niacinamide next in the ingredients list, which makes sense. I think we are caught up on both formulas here. We then have glycerin 26. We then have glycerin on both of them, but something wild happens right here. This is where all of a sudden things change. In the Korean version, we have adenosine listed next, whereas in the US version, we have 1,2-hexane diol. I think what is going on right here is something called the 1% line. Now, you may have heard of this before, but basically with the INCI list requirements within the United States, once you hit the 1% line, ingredients can be in any order that you want. Trust me, I wish this wasn't the case. I wish companies just listed in descending order no matter what, but they do have this option. They also can randomly change it so that you buy one product and that product has the ingredients listed one way, but then you buy it in a kit and it's listed another way. That happened to me with, ironically enough, the INCI list. But I absolutely do think that's what's going on here. You know, another interesting thing in this ingredients list is we see yeast fermentation listed in the Korean version, whereas in the US version we have Saccharomyces ferment. So that is a fermented ingredient, but it is a little bit more transparency as far as what type of fermented ingredient it is. And that is a requirement in the US. Now, all of the ingredients that are listed in the Korean version are found in the US version as well. We have sodium hyaluronate, we have sodium citrate, citric acid. However, we have more, yet again, on the US ingredients list. So I do suspect that at least one of these ingredients here on the Korean version has more sub-ingredients that are not listed on the label. I want to make sure you guys know a couple of other details that I found while digging for more information on this topic. So something that really stood out to me is that we do have different regulations in terms of active ingredients. For example, salicylic acid, one of my absolute favorite ingredients for fighting my acne, that maxes out in Korea at 0.5%, whereas in the US it maxes out at 2%. However, you can work around that by using ingredients like salicin, betaine salicylate. That was such an interesting find to me personally because I have felt that I prefer American actives, and it may just be because I need those higher percentages as somebody who does deal with acne. Okay, I have one final topic that I want to close this video out with, and that is, how do you know if your product is authentic or if it is a fake? There was a part of me that wanted to start the video here because it's such an important question, but ultimately I think it goes last because I can't really just give you a good answer to this question. I can tell you that a lot of people wonder this exact same thing, and usually the reason that people have arrived at this question is because they fell in love with the product at Sephora, realized they can get it for less at YesStyle, Amazon, what have you, and then when they received it, said, hey, this looks very different. For me personally, this is why I prefer to shop through an authorized retailer, which includes, YesStyle, Stylevana, Wishtrend, etc., as opposed to Amazon. I have heard some mix-ups can happen with Amazon, so I'm a lot less comfortable sitting here telling you, yes, your Amazon product is authentic. But again, I would ask around, I would see if anybody has similar packaging, because as you saw in this video, it is very possible to have completely different packaging just based on where your product was actually manufactured. So no simple answer to this question, unfortunately, but if you bought from an authorized retailer, your product is most likely authentic and in different packaging. So I hope this topic was as interesting for you guys as it was for me. I'm telling you, I was over here nerding out at the differences between regulations. It's fascinating stuff. And it's real fascinating to think about how people may be perceiving these differences. So let me know your thoughts, share your comments in the comment section below. And if you guys found this video helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.